How'd you like to learn a lot in a short amount of time? A major infusion of knowledge in, say, 5 minutes?
Really?
And what if those 5 minutes distilled the best ideas from some of the best minds in the world?
Best minds in the world?
Sound like something that might interest you? If so, you've come to the right place. At Prager University, 5 minutes is all the time we need to communicate many of the most important ideas in life.
Whoa, tell me more.
Just as a shot of espresso boosts your energy, a shot of Prager University boosts your brain. Because not only will you have more knowledge, you will have more wisdom. If you think I'm exaggerating, there's an easy way to find out. Just watch a course.
Okay, come on, load. Please, 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 please. Prageruniversity. PragerU? PragerU. All right, let's check these guys out. Whoa. Holy shit. Wow, they have a lot of different courses. Oh, wow. I'm gonna have some fun looking at these.
Murder. Is murder wrong? Is it evil? How do you know?
Liberals, the research tells us, are generally more outgoing, more likely to try new stuff. They're open to new ideas, though not school choice or flat taxes or a market-based healthcare reform.
I want fairness generally means, look at me, I'm a nice person.
The left is destroying the Boy Scouts. The power of the visual to excite men has no analog in women.
Oh, honey, no, that's not women. That's just you.
Over the last 400 years, what power has done the most to spread the ideals of limited government, an independent judiciary, certain inalienable rights, and free markets? That power would be the British Empire.
Adolf Hitler was no nationalist. He was an imperialist. If his ambitions had been limited to ruling Germans, it would have been terrible for Germany. But the French, the British, the Russians, and everyone else would have been spared a world war.
I'll give you another interesting thing that people don't reflect on. We ache to have them on our shows. We ache to debate them, but they won't debate us, and they won't come on our shows, and they won't have us on their shows. I have offered tens of thousands of dollars to any left-wing columnist on the New York Times to debate me.
Left logic. Shouting racial slurs at a black couple in Denny's equals racist. Yes, this is what they're teaching your kids in school.
So okay, Prager University is not a university. It's not an academic institution of any kind, actually. It is a YouTube channel created by conservative talk show host Dennis Prager.
They now give all kids in school breakfast and lunch. And I am totally opposed to that, totally.
You're against giving children food at school?
How does PragerU funnel their viewers, and what makes their funnel different from the traditional alt-right pipeline? Well, according to their marketing materials, their funnel looks like this.
In case you couldn't tell, Dennis Prager is a fucking psychopath. So, here are my top 10 least favorite PragerU videos. Do not take any of this video seriously, by the way. Number 10.
Dude, those animals are so fucking funny, they make me want to merge without looking.
Are you more valuable than a dog? Or a cat, or for that matter, a tree?
Yeah, I think I'm more valuable than a dog, or a cat, or a tree.
One of the biggest differences between Judeo-Christian values and secular values concerns this very issue, the worth of the human being. According to the Judeo-Christian value system, human beings are infinitely valuable.
Kind of funny when Dennis says human beings are infinitely valuable when he hates literally everyone who doesn't agree with him.
On the other hand, secular humanism devalues the worth of humans.
No.
As ironic as it may sound, the God-based Judeo-Christian value system renders humans infinitely more valuable than any humanistic value system.
Well, if you look back in history, God is the leading cause of death.
The reason is simple. If there is no God, human beings are only material beings, and therefore not worth anything beyond the matter of which they are composed.
But humanists put human life at the center of their value system, not God. So therefore, they're more liking human life. I don't know.
But in the Judeo-Christian system, human beings are created in the image of God, meaning that human life is sacred.
Ah, yes. The sacred human life that was always preserved in the Old Testament, even though the Old Testament tells you how to treat your slaves.
In other words, we are either created in the image of carbon atoms, and therefore not worth much more than carbon.
Oh, yes. People found out that we are made of carbon atoms, therefore all secularists believe that we aren't worth much more than carbon atoms. Dennis, God doesn't look fondly on you.
Or we are created in the image of God, and therefore infinitely valuable.
Ah, right. Even though people use the same God and his teachings to justify the transatlantic slave trade.
Our secular post-Judeo-Christian society has rendered human beings less significant than at any time in Western history.
Okay. Give me an example, please.
First, the secular denial that human beings are created in God's image has led to humans increasingly being equated with animals.
Yeah. Because we are animals?
That's why, over the course of 30 years of asking high school and college students if they would first try to save their dog or a stranger, 2/3 have always voted against the person.
Maybe it's because it's their dog. Now, if that dog they didn't know and there was a stranger drowning like 50 feet away, then I would assume they would take the stranger. But it's their dog. A thing that they've grown up with and played with and lived with for, I don't know, I would assume at least a good chunk of their lives. So, yeah, I totally understand why people say that they'd rather save their dog than a stranger. Let me ask you this, Dennis. If this little guy, your bulldog, was drowning and a stranger was drowning, would you save Otto or would you save the stranger?
They either don't know what they would do or they actually vote for the dog. And many adults now vote similarly. Why?
I just said the reason why.
There are two reasons.
Oh.
One is that with the denial of the authority of higher values, such as religious teachings, people increasingly make moral decisions on the basis of how they feel.
Isn't that what your moral values are supposed to be?
And since just about everybody feels more for their dog than for a stranger, many people simply choose the dog. The other reason is that once you get rid of Judeo-Christian values, there's no reason for elevating human worth over that of an animal.
Who is saying this? Please tell me who the fuck is saying this. Even some of the most crazy left-wing people that I know value human life more than animal life. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a lefty.
That's why people estranged from Judeo-Christian values, including many Jews and Christians, support programs such as Holocaust on Your Plate.
The animals eat the auntie!
Holocaust on Your Plate is a campaign developed by the animal rights group People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, PETA, that teaches that there is no difference between the barbecuing of chickens in America and the burning of Jews in the Holocaust.
No, Dennis, that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is that they're acknowledging the fact that so many animals die every single day, millions of them, for human consumption. They're not saying, oh yeah, barbecuing chicken wings is the same as gassing Jews. That's not what they're saying. Yeah, it says right here, every day, people slaughter an incomprehensible number of chickens, turkeys, rabbits, sheep, goats, and cows for food. According to one estimate, 200 million land animals are slaughtered around the world every single day.
Why? Because a human and a chicken are of equal worth.
Do you actually think that PETA is like how they act in South Park, where they just butt-fuck animals? I am almost convinced that Dennis Prager actually thinks that's what PETA is.
So too, in a notorious Tucson, Arizona case, a woman screamed to firefighters that her 3 babies were in the burning house. Thinking that the woman's children were trapped inside, the firefighters risked their lives to save the woman's 3 cats.
Wow, some firefighters made a mistake about a frantic woman saying that her 3 babies, i.e. her cats, were stuck in the house. Most people call their pets babies. They're babies. Therefore, secularism has taken over that human life is much less valuable now. That's pretty much what he's saying.
If you think these 2 examples are either just theoretical,
yes,
the dog stranger question, or extreme, the Tucson mother of cats,
yes,
here's an issue that is neither theoretical nor extreme. More and more people believe, as PETA does, that even if it would lead to a cure for cancer or AIDS, it would be wrong to experiment on animals.
Again, who is saying that, Dennis?
In fact, many animal rights advocates believe that even to save a human life, it would be wrong to kill a pig to obtain a heart valve.
I don't know who believes that, but I don't. I mean, I would think that in order to save a human life, I think it is okay to kill a pig.
The 20th century showed vividly what happens to human worth when Judeo-Christian values are abandoned. Nazi Germany and the various communist regimes all rejected Judeo-Christian values and ended up slaughtering the largest number of people in human history.
It's never a Dennis Prager PragerU video without mentioning the 3 bajillion people killed under communism and the Holocaust. Literally, in every single video, he mentions that communism killed over 100 million people.
For Nazism, Jews and members of other non-Aryan groups were declared worthless and murdered in the millions.
True, but a lot of men in the German army in World War II were Christians.
For communists, human worth was determined solely by communist parties which murdered tens of millions of people.
Those numbers are heavily inflated, but I'll get to that later.
Only by rejecting Judeo-Christian values could Nazis declare Jews, Slavs, and others subhuman. And only by rejecting Judeo-Christian values could communist regimes slaughter those they called class enemies. Individual human life meant nothing.
I don't have anything to say about that.
Meanwhile, human slavery was abolished only in the Judeo-Christian world.
False. Would you consider Haiti a Judeo-Christian society? Because they were the first country in the world to abolish slavery in 1804, then the UK, then France, and other European countries. The Persian Empire outlawed slavery and encouraged more religious tolerance. That was back in 500 BC? Yeah, slavery does still exist today, but if you go back further in history, you can find that other societies have banned slavery in the past before the Judeo-Christian world.
And of course, for nearly all those who reject Judeo-Christian values, the human fetus is worthless, if its mother deems it so.
Based.
Finally, there is an increasingly vocal part of the environmentalist movement that also denigrates human worth. For these individuals, the human being is not infinitely precious. Trees and rivers and mountains are.
Yeah, the environment is really important, and not all, but a lot of these infinitely valuable humans that you claim to love so much, a lot of them are going to die when, the sea level rises 150 feet within the next, 50 years? So, yeah, the Earth is very important to human life if you want to survive.
So, are you more valuable than a dog or a cat or a tree?
Yes!
That depends on your value system.
No, it does not. Nobody's saying that human beings are not worth anything.
I'm Dennis Prager.
Number 9.
It's radical! Radical! Drink it!
There are crazy positions on the far left and crazy positions on the far right. On the left, there are people who believe a man can get pregnant.
Well, depending on how far a woman or a person who was born as a woman and wants to be a man, depending on how far they are into their transition, it is possible for a man to get pregnant.
That the world is going to end in a decade if we don't cap carbon emissions.
No. What we're saying is we're going to cross a line to which there will be no point of return for us to repair the damage that is caused by carbon emissions.
That the real purpose of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery.
No. Who has said that? I mean, the American Revolution was caused by taxation without representation. That was the reason why we revolted.
On the right, there are people who deny the Holocaust happened.
That is true.
Who believe that whites are inherently superior to other races.
That is also true.
That no one should pay taxes.
There are people on both sides who think that.
But there's an important difference between these two extremes. The crazies on the right have no voice. They are shunned. They live mostly on the far fringes of the internet.
Yeah, they should be shunned if they think black people are inferior and if they think the Jews are trying to ruin our lives.
The crazies on the left have a loud voice. They are celebrated. They live in the halls of Congress, in state legislatures, and in governors' mansions. In light of this distinction, it might be interesting to ask ourselves this question. Which group, the left or the right, is more radical?
Okay, both sides have their crazy people. The left has people who think that infants can be killed after they're born, and the right has people who think Jews should be killed for unknown reasons. The left has radical communists, and the right has radical imperialists. Neither group is more radical than the other. Each political identity has a radical side, but most of the people are pretty moderate.
We can arrive at a common sense answer by posing this thought experiment. What would America look like if the left got everything it wanted, and what would America look like if the right got everything it wanted?
Short answer, communism. Other short answer, capitalism. That's literally the rest of the video.
Let's start with the left. Taxes would go up on individuals and corporations to pay for more social programs. Everything from universal childcare to free college tuition.
No, we'd only be taxing the top 1%, not all individuals. And yes, corporations do need to pay their fair share. A lot of corporations pay little to no tax whatsoever. What else do you have for us, Will?
Many on the left call for income taxes as high as 70%. Private health insurance would be abolished. The government would provide all healthcare services. Everyone in the medical field, from doctors, nurses, and administrators, would be government employees.
Sweet. Now people can actually afford healthcare. Sounds good to me.
Americans would pay for this government healthcare through much higher taxes.
Right, and the ultra-wealthy will pay their fair share of taxes. Just like everybody else will pay the same percentage, not the same amount.
Illegal immigration would be decriminalized. It would still be illegal to enter the country without proper documentation, but no one who made it into the U.S. would be prosecuted for doing so.
Sweet. People are coming here to seek asylum. Sounds good to me.
Illegal immigrants would also receive free healthcare, free education, and free housing.
The government doesn't provide free housing. Where the fuck did that come from?
The Green New Deal would be adopted. Hundreds of billions of dollars of subsidies for wind and solar power would be added to the federal budget.
Cool, then we don't have to rely on oil that will eventually run out, which will also create thousands of new jobs.
Drilling for fossil fuels, the current source of 80% of our energy, would be sharply curtailed or eliminated altogether.
Awesome. Now our planet won't be destroyed. And it's not like we're just gonna cut it off completely. We're still gonna need oil to build all of the renewable energy sources like wind, solar, and nuclear. It's not like we're just gonna cut it immediately and be energy dry.
So would nuclear power.
I knew that was gonna come up. Here's the thing about nuclear power. I am for it, but the problem is it'll take several decades to build. Each power plant, well, I mean, they could be built at the same time, but it'll take a lot longer than solar and wind, which will take a fraction of the time.
As a result, consumers' electric bills would be much higher.
Source, please.
Reparations would be paid for the past injustice of slavery. How it would be paid and exactly to whom is not clear.
Cool. And also, from rich white people.
Legally acquiring a gun would become much more difficult. College debt would be canceled. Those who had already paid for college would get nothing.
Yeah, cool, great. Following that logic, you want to pass a law to ban murder? How do you think people who have been murdered would feel about that?
Transgender women, biological men who identify as women, would be allowed to compete against women in sports.
Oh no. Transgender people playing sports. The 5 of them who do. And why do conservatives only give a fuck when trans women play women's sports? Nobody cares about women's sports. Not even people who are fucking feminists and shit.
America's military budget would be slashed by 25 to 50%.
And we'll still be the most powerful country in the fucking world.
Speech codes would be enforced throughout American life.
Like what? Like forcing people to... What are you talking about?
And that's just a partial list. Now let's ask what would happen if the right got what it wanted.
Classic Prager fashion where they provide no evidence whatsoever for their claims.
Income taxes would be cut. Capital gains taxes would be cut. Corporate taxes would be cut. And those cuts would be made permanent.
And where would the funding come from to pay for your precious military?
All regulations that make doing business unnecessarily difficult and don't protect public health would be repealed.
What regulations? Like not having rat parts in food? Because that's pretty serious.
The issue of abortion would be sent back to the states for each state to decide its own abortion rules for itself.
Right.
Many more charter schools would be opened, and it would become much easier to fire bad teachers.
Yes, privatizing education when most people in the United States can barely afford a $500 emergency. But no, let's privatize education.
In order to vote, citizens would need to present a valid ID.
Okay.
The border with Mexico would be secured. The only way to enter the United States would be through designated border crossings. In order to qualify for welfare assistance, you would have to prove you could not work.
Most people who are on welfare programs or on food stamps work harder than you ever have in your life, Will.
The healthcare system would be open to free market reforms. For example, insurance companies could sell policies across state lines.
And healthcare prices will skyrocket. But hey.
Students in elementary school would recite the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of each school day.
Yeah, blindingly saluting the flag. That's definitely not fascist in any way.
So what can we conclude from our experiment?
I love how you just did not mention any of the radical points at the beginning when you were explaining if the radical right got everything it wanted.
It's not hard to figure out. If the right got everything it wanted, the government would get much smaller. The citizen would have more freedom.
Yes, smaller government, more police, more military. That's definitely small government. The small government that you want is shrinking down every single program that will make people's lives better. Spending $8 million on a fighter jet to bomb a school in Syria? Yes. Spending $8 million to build a school here? Nah.
If the left got everything it wanted, the government would get much bigger. The citizen would have less freedom.
Yes, the freedom to be offensive. That isn't true. Shrinking government, in my opinion, is shrinking down the authority it has, not what it spends on.
You're not radical if you want America to be what it's always been, committed to individual liberty.
Which conservatives have always done.
You're only radical if you want to fundamentally transform America into something it's never been.
Yes, I'm radical for wanting freedom for people who aren't white.
Which country do you want to live in?
Venezuela!
I'm Will Witt for Prager University.
Number 8.
Seatbelts, everyone!
Please, listen to Miss Frizzle.
What's happening in our schools?
Leftist indoctrination, where students are required to get monthly abortions supervised by a teacher and a professor from Planned Parenthood University, where kids are deserving of gayness.
Colleges have become leftist indoctrination centers. It's not a new problem. It's been going on for decades, first behind the scenes and now out front.
Yeah, colleges are more left-leaning, or well, most of them are very left-leaning, but that doesn't mean they're indoctrinating students. Just because they're telling the truth.
That's how radical change happens. It creeps up on us. And when we finally figure out what's going on, it's too late.
What radical change are you talking about? Are you talking about acknowledging that trans people and gay people are people too? Because that's not radical. Radical change as in police regulation and gun regulation? Wow, so radical. Wow, so radical.
What's been happening on college campuses is now happening in elementary schools and high schools. I know. I'm a mom of 2 school-aged kids.
Source. Trust me, bro.
I've seen it with my own eyes. More and more parents are seeing it too. Thanks to the lockdowns and Zoom, we're getting a window into our children's classes. It's not a pretty picture. Kids, really young kids, are being taught stuff so radical, so devoid of what real education is, it should alarm us all.
Okay. Please provide examples. I'm not saying there isn't any radical stuff going on, but please tell me. You brought it up. Please tell me, PragerU. Please fucking tell me.
Here are a few examples. Recently, Chicago Public Schools adopted an American history curriculum based on the 1619 Project published and promoted by the New York Times. The 1619 Project asserts that America's founding was not marked by the Declaration of Independence in 1776, but the arrival of the first African slaves in Jamestown in 1619.
That is true, but compared to the 1776 Commission, that was a direct response to the 1619 Project, which was just fascist propaganda, I would prefer the 1619 Project. It's not like the 1619 Project doesn't have any flaws whatsoever, but it is very factually based and is endorsed by pretty much almost all historians.
Historians from across the political spectrum have denounced this as a giant lie.
Source, please.
The New York Times has walked back many of the project's original claims. Still, this malicious slander of America is now being taught in schools as truth.
Please tell me what is in this American history curriculum that is truth. Will you tell me, please?
And what is that truth? That America is, was, and always has been a fundamentally racist country, and that white Americans today bear responsibility for all current and historic racism.
Not historic racism. It's not my fault that a rich white guy in the 1850s owned 500 black people, but current racism, white people still benefit off of. White privilege is a thing. The fact that minorities face far more arrests and discrimination against police than whites. The fact that innocent minorities are shot on the street by police, and the police are almost never criminally charged for the murders. Yeah, there's a lot of discrimination, not to mention the war on drugs, redlining, and the fact that black families have 1/10 of the wealth of the average white family.
This bleeds perfectly into another educational debacle: diversity, equity, and inclusion.
What is so radical about diversity, equity, and inclusion of non-white people?
Now, this might sound innocent, but don't be fooled.
Oh shit, she's gonna drop some facts and logic on us.
It's a dangerous euphemism for something called critical race theory.
The thing that conservatives know nothing about.
Critical race theory says that racism is woven into the very fabric of American society.
Based.
What does this look like in a school setting? Middle and high school students in Wellesley, Massachusetts are being taught to be on the lookout for unconscious racial bias in their classmates.
What's so bad about that? Being more mindful of racial bias and stereotypes is a lot better than ignoring them.
We need your help, an email to students reads. Your school leaders will be working with you this year on how to be proactive about preventing bias incidents and how to report them should they occur. This warped vision of America doesn't stop at race. In Colorado, first graders are being taught that just because someone looks like a boy doesn't mean they are.
Oh no. First graders are being taught that trans people exist. I don't... This is so fucking stupid. I can't deal with this lady's bullshit. She's just cherry-picking examples from one school in Massachusetts, one school in Chicago, and one school in Colorado, when over half of the school system of the United States is teaching that the Civil War was about states' rights and not slavery. And a lot of people on the left bitch about that, so, you know.
Only they can know who they truly are. Gender is something they choose for themselves, based on how masculine or feminine they feel.
No, not based on how masculine or feminine they feel, but if they feel like a boy or a girl. You can feel like a feminine boy. I'm a pretty feminine guy, but I'm not saying that I'm a girl.
Or maybe they're not fully a boy or a girl, but something in between. Whatever that may be.
Non-binary people.
To repeat, that's what children are taught in first grade. Imagine what they're taught in second or third grade.
That all white people should be genocided because of racism. That you have to be gay in order to survive. That the state will require you to get an abortion after you have sex every single time.
And, of course, the world faces imminent disaster from global warming.
True!
The American Federation of Teachers has fully endorsed the most radical aspects of the Green New Deal.
Great! Awesome! Sweet! So we don't torch our fucking planet.
Which is already featured in California school curriculums.
Awesome! Great! Yeah. How lost do you have to be to, see this being taught in schools and worrying? What is so radical about acknowledging that we need to protect our planet and not burn through stuff?
In sum, many of our schools are teaching children that our past is terrible and that they have no future. That if they are white, they are racist whether they know it or not.
Sometimes.
If they're black, they're victims, whether they experience it or not.
Of systemic racism. Yeah.
That they should constantly question their sexual identity.
I was never told this. My teacher in first grade said that I liked playing with the girls and that I, did a lot of feminine things when I was little. But that doesn't... that she didn't tell my parents, oh my god, he needs to be a girl. Get him a sex change right now. That's not happening.
With all this being drummed into their heads, no wonder today's kids have more psychological problems than any previous generation. Maybe you think I'm cherry-picking examples to exaggerate my point.
No. You're definitely not cherry-picking any examples.
Or maybe you're one of the lucky ones who sends your kids to a school that has yet to be infected by this radical agenda. Maybe. But if I were you, I wouldn't take it on faith.
She just then goes on to describe what parents and guardians should do about their children's school. But honestly, that is what you're supposed to do, and I agree with that. But the fact that she's scared of people saying that racism exists and that global warming is happening kind of says it all. But hey, it's PragerU, strawman, plaza, whatever.
You don't have to agree with each other on everything. You just have to agree that the brainwashing of our children stops here.
Right. Because acknowledging the existence of non-white people is brainwashing. Compared to the 1776 project, which was just total propaganda, brainwashing, and having students being blindly patriotic, saluting the flag, whatever.
Stops now. Americans know what our children should be learning, that they must take responsibility for their conduct, that race is the least important aspect of another person, that hard work and rational thought are things we all value, that there is nothing wrong with the bodies they were born into, and that America was founded not to promote racism, but to guarantee sacred liberties and opportunities to its citizens. And it wouldn't hurt if they learned reading and writing and math, too.
Right. Teachers are teaching their kids only that you should be trans and not teaching kids how to read and learning how to multiply by the square root of 5 or whatever. This is the most strawman PragerU video yet. And this is only number 8. PragerU, more like Prager pooo.
I'm Jill Simonian, founder of thefabmom.com for Prager University.
MILF. Number 7.
You fucked up my face.
If what I am about to tell you is true, almost everything we most treasure, freedom, beauty, reason, the family, economic well-being, and even goodness, is in jeopardy.
Oh, fuck. Shit's about to get real.
Who or what poses this threat? The answer is the most powerful ideology of the last 100 years, leftism.
The most powerful ideology of the past 100 years? No, not even close. Leftism was powerful in the USSR, communist China, but not in the United States. I mean, yeah, America's has slowly gotten more progressive. Western Europe has slowly gotten more progressive since after World War II, but it is definitely not the most powerful. We are still a capitalist imperialist empire. That is the most powerful ideology of the past 100 years. It has been the most powerful ideology since America's founding, even.
Not liberalism, leftism, or if you prefer, progressivism.
Leftism and progressivism are two totally different things. Leftism means you are for communism and anti-capitalism. Progressivism just means you're not an asshole.
Leftism destroys everything it touches.
Really? What are some new examples?
Here are just a few examples. 1. The universities. Perhaps the most obvious example, one that many liberals acknowledge, is the left's near destruction of most universities as places of learning. In the words of Harvard professor Steven Pinker, an atheist and a liberal, because of the left, quote, universities are becoming laughingstocks of intolerance.
Intolerant of conservative ideas or intolerant fascist compounds? I'm so confused. I go to a pretty left-leaning university during the school year. There's literally no intolerance on campus. Now, some people do get mad when conservatives try and, push their narratives or try to change people's minds or ask people questions, but it's public discourse. Nobody is shunned for having capitalist beliefs. Nobody is shunned for thinking America's a good place. People are shunned for being racist and for being sexist and homophobic.
Unquote. At almost every university, and now high schools and even elementary schools, students are taught to shut down, not debate, those who differ with them, and to rely on feelings rather than reason.
Source? You just broke my brain. I'm confused. I was never taught to shut down people who differ from me. I was taught to be more open-minded. And everybody else was taught the same exact thing. I was also taught, fucking ancient Rome and Thanksgiving and the American Revolution, World War II. I was taught that in history class. I was taught how to multiply by the square root of pi or whatever. I was taught how to use the Pythagorean theorem. I was never taught to use my feelings and shut down people who differ from me. Straw man. But please, Dennis, do you have any more examples?
2. The arts.
Wait, what? That was it?
Throughout history, the primary purpose of art was to elevate people.
I mean, I guess. The primary purpose of art would be to add texture to our lives. You could argue that art can make people's lives better, but that's not always the case. Some art exists to make people feel miserable. Art exists to add emotion and texture to our thoughts and feelings. That's what creativity is. You putting your heart and soul into something and other people looking at it or listening and enjoying. Art can mean anything and art can mean nothing. It all depends on you. It's how you look at it.
Through beauty, artistic excellence, and emotional depth.
Beethoven's Symphony No. 5, The Thinker, and some lily pad creek thing.
To the left, the primary purpose of art, sculpture, and music is to shock. That's why so much contemporary art is meaningless and involves the scatological.
The scatological? No. This is fucking stupid. The left isn't directly responsible for people creating new art. Yeah, some of the greatest artists to ever lived back during the Renaissance and during the Enlightenment era. Da Vinci, Michelangelo, Donatello, Raphael, Vincent van Gogh, and some of the greatest writers existed during post-Enlightenment, like Mark Twain, like George Orwell and Charles Dickens, Leo Tolstoy, James Joyce, post-Enlightenment authors, and some authors during the Enlightenment, like Herman Melville, and some even before the Enlightenment during the Renaissance, like William Shakespeare. But just because other people are making new stuff doesn't mean that art is being ruined. It's just adding to it. As a music student, I am taught to think outside the box and create new ideas, not just do the exact same repetitive Beethoven and Mozart shit over and over again. Why do you think bluegrass and jazz and rock and roll came out in, 1920s, 30s, 40s? And then things were built on from there. In the 1960s, rock and roll started to become a bit more heavier, and that evolved into metal. And metal became its own genre. Rock and roll was its own genre. There was pop that came out in the 80s and 90s. Hip-hop made its emergence in the 80s and 90s. And they just built off from there. All starting, by the way, from people playing drums in caves. Same thing with art. People in caves were drawing handprints in clay on cave walls. And that evolved into paintings, sculpting, whatever they felt like they should create. But no. People aren't making Beethovens anymore, therefore the left is ruining art. Nice one, Dennis. I imagine you grew up in the time when Buddy Holly and the Crickets and Elvis and all those other rock and roll groups in the 1950s and 60s came out, and when churches and conservatives were saying that it was the devil's music, what conservatives like you are saying about heavy metal and death metal. Just saying.
Meaning urine and feces. Yes, urine and feces.
All art is urine and feces.
To give one of countless examples, in 2016, the Guggenheim Museum in New York featured a pure gold working toilet, which visitors were invited to use. The name of the exhibit was America, so one could literally relieve oneself on America.
If I was big enough, I would relieve myself on actual America.
3. Literature. The English department at the University of Pennsylvania replaced the portrait of the greatest English language writer who ever lived, William Shakespeare, with a picture of a black lesbian poet. Why? Because he was a white European male. Leftist professors have replaced the pursuit of excellence with the pursuit of diversity.
Yeah, one professor took down a picture of William Shakespeare and replaced it with a black lesbian poet. Therefore, all leftist professors have replaced the pursuit of excellence with the pursuit of diversity. Do you have any more for us, Dennis?
4. Late-night television.
Oh, you're not going to back up your point? Okay.
In America, late-night television shows were completely apolitical. The hosts believed their role was to entertain viewers and offer them relief and laughter after a difficult day.
Yeah. That also still happens. Like Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel and etc. I don't know. I don't really watch late night TV, but that still happens. Jimmy Fallon's pretty funny. Jimmy Kimmel's pretty funny. I'm sorry. I don't watch late night TV.
No longer. You cannot watch late night television if you just want to be entertained. Late night TV is now left night TV.
No, not even commentary. Just saying that late night TV now is left night TV. No examples whatsoever. Besides fucking Jimmy Kimmel crying. And the only time he's actually cried is when his kid got sick and when mass shootings have happened. School shootings.
5. Religion.
No examples. And what? The left is ruining religion?
The left has ruined much of mainstream Protestantism and Catholicism and non-Orthodox Judaism.
I grew up Catholic. There is literally anti-abortion and anti-pornography propaganda everywhere. So, I don't... Dennis just pulled this out of his ass. He clearly... Oh, God. Dennis, are you actually Jewish? Please tell me, are you actually Jewish?
Which are now little more than left-wing organizations with religious symbols. In many churches and synagogues, one is more likely to hear the clergy talk about political issues than about any other subject, including even the Bible.
Source? I can't fucking do this, bro. I can't do this. Churches have always talked about the evils in the 1950s and 60s of desegregation and repealing Jim Crow laws. And aren't you fucking Jewish, Dennis? Or do you just say that? Because I see you defending Christmas all the time. That's the #1 video on the list. Just a spoiler.
6. Free speech. If there was anything virtually every American considered a bedrock value, it was freedom of speech. Yet the left is destroying even this unique American achievement.
Free speech isn't unique to America, but go on.
Almost half of America's young people say they believe in free speech, but not for hate speech. Yet the whole point of free speech is that it allows people to express any political or social position, including what any one of us considers hate speech.
So it's okay for people in the Klan to call black people the N-word at Denny's? Because I would consider that hate speech. I would consider it hate speech to harass people and not calling them by their preferred pronouns, because that is disrespectful. But Dennis just wants to say hate speech and not get punished for it. He just wants to say just very offensive things. To say that women should have sex with their husbands even if they don't want to. Yeah, he said that. Dennis has said that men would be raping people if it wasn't for the Bible. Dennis has said that gay men were not treated as pariahs in the 1980s during the AIDS epidemic. So yeah, I think it's correct to shun you for saying some very stupid shit, Dennis.
And hate speech now means any position the left differs with.
Or the people saying hate speech are just wrong. They're just wrong.
7. Race. America has become the least racist multiracial society in world history.
The left is ruining race and saying it's bad to do racism. And by the way, America doesn't even come close to the top 10 least racist countries in the world. Okay, let's see here. Least racist countries in the world. World Population Review. Okay, this is a good source. See, the countries in blue. Where's the list? Okay. Least racist countries in the world. Netherlands, Canada, New Zealand, Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Switzerland, Norway, Belgium, Austria, France, Ireland, Australia, Portugal, United Kingdom, Germany, or Greece, United Kingdom, Germany, Brazil, Italy, Spain, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Argentina, Indonesia, Mexico, Chile, Costa Rica, Poland, Panama, Russia, Uruguay, Singapore, South Africa, South Korea, Japan, Hungary, Estonia, Egypt, Morocco, Malaysia, Thailand, Romania, Vietnam, Slovenia. And in 69th place, the United States of America. Fuck you, Dennis.
On a daily basis, Americans of every race and ethnicity get along superbly. But the left constantly poisons young minds with angry diatribes about systemic racism, microaggressions, and white privilege. 8.
No examples for any of his claims. Again, my professors and my teachers have not bombarded me with systemic racism, microaggressions, white privilege in the classrooms. They're saying, oh, you are white, therefore you are responsible for racism. That's just not happening, Dennis. I mean, yes, systemic racism is still a problem in terms of the policing. White privilege exists because I, as a white person, was born into a relatively more wealthy family compared to the average black person who's born into a kind of a poor family. The average African-American family income is literally 1/10 of that of the average white family income. That's pretty privilegey to me, but hey, I'm just a dumb lefty.
The Boy Scouts.
Scoutmaster Dennis, is this how I earn my hiking badge? By watching your How the Left Ruins Everything PragerU video?
Yes, as long as you don't tell your parents that this camping trip happened.
The left is destroying the Boy Scouts. They're not even the Boy Scouts anymore, they're just the Scouts.
Are you sure about that, Dennis? Because I have some family members who are in the Boy Scouts right now. And by the way, the leaders of the Boy Scouts met in person literally in the 1970s and allowed girls to join the Boy Scouts. Yeah, there are the Girl Scouts, but if girls want to learn life skills like the Boy Scouts do, like camping, hiking, shooting guns, like I did when I was in Boy Scouts, then they should be able to. There's literally nothing wrong with this. And the left, yeah, there isn't some alien race of leftists and secularists who came down from the heavens and were like, Boy Scouts, let girls in or we will obliterate the Judeo-Christian planet.
The left forced them to admit girls. Here's the thing about the left. It only destroys. It doesn't build. The Boy Scouts have helped shape tens of millions of boys into independent, strong, good men. So where's the left-wing version of the Boy Scouts? It doesn't exist. There is none. 9. Male-female.
Got him!
In some ways, scariest of all, the left is committed to ending male and female as distinct categories.
No. No. We're not trying to eliminate boys and girls. We're just trying to say if a boy doesn't feel like a boy, and instead if they feel like a girl, then therefore they are a girl. Not, you are gender neutral. You are female. Like, this is straw man. Again, straw man.
Children are increasingly raised not to think of themselves as a boy or a girl. Teachers are told not to refer to their students as boys or girls, just students.
Yeah, to be gender inclusive. What is so bad about all these changes? I need to know. What is so bad about it?
In New York City, parents do not have to check off male or female on their newborn's birth certificate. They can check off X. All this imposed gender confusion can only end up producing confused people and a confused society.
That sounds like a transphobic dog whistle.
So why does the left engage in so much destruction? Because it thinks America is essentially a bad country. But America is only bad compared to utopia. And the left is utopian.
Do you know what utopian means? It means it's a perfect society. America is bad compared to utopia, that is true. And the left wants a communist utopia where everybody has a better life and isn't oppressed by the same 10 companies that control all the food, the same 3 companies that control the drinks that we drink, the same 4 companies that control airline traffic, the same, literally 1 company controls 90% of online search. So yeah, the left wants a utopia.
I'm Dennis Prager.
Number 6.
Do you remember America? If you read about it in a history textbook, you probably learned about a land of oppression, racism, sexism, income inequality, police brutality, and imperial wars.
No. I didn't learn about America's racism, sexism, eugenics, slavery. I didn't learn all about that until, like, my senior year of high school and on from there. I was taught way more about America's triumphs, how we beat off the British and the Revolutionary War, how we abolished slavery, how we defeated Nazi Germany. But no, I was never taught that America had forced sterilization programs on women of color and had Jim Crow laws, and where black men, even if they were just accused of rape, even if they were innocent, they were still put to death for raping a white woman. So yeah, I think it's fair that to call America a land of racism, sexism, income inequality, constant imperial wars exploiting resources from third world countries. I think it's very fair to call America a racist country. I think it's very fair to call America and call out its faults so that way it doesn't happen again.
Aside from that, it was a great place. That is how America is portrayed in most American high schools and colleges.
Yep. That's exactly what it is.
In America's media, films, and by its progressive politicians. In the words of filmmaker Michael Moore, America is a nation founded on genocide, built on the backs of slaves, and maintained through the subjugation of women to second-class citizenship and economic disempowerment.
Yeah. We killed off the indigenous people to America, and we stole all of their land, and we didn't allow them to become U.S. citizens until after World War I. And we used slave labor from Africa to build up the infrastructure in the United States. We brought over the Chinese and paid them literally like 2 cents a day to build our railroads. And yes, women were subjugated as literally objects owned by their husbands, and literally only the top 1% has ever been represented in Congress. To quote our Lord and Savior Vladimir Lenin, freedom in capitalist societies will be the same way as it was in ancient Greek republics. Freedom for slave owners. Except in our time, the top 1% who literally control everything.
Is that America's history? Is that who Americans were and are?
Well, that's what we were. I'm pretty sure we are a lot less racist now, but there are still a lot of racist, shitty people out there.
George Orwell understood that the most effective way to destroy a people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history.
Which conservatives never do.
History is much more than a collection of facts. History, and our understanding of it, tells us who we are as a people in the same way your personal memories and experiences define and shape who you are.
Thank you for literally proving my point. It's an understanding in our past experiences who define who we are as a country. And so far, yes, America has had its triumphs. We defeated Nazi Germany. We defeated the USSR. We abolished slavery, and we made astounding leaps in civil rights. However, we were about 50 years behind everywhere else in Europe. Now let's look at some of America's faults. We had eugenics going on after slavery. We had the formation of several white supremacist hate groups after the Civil War. We had 200 years, no, more than that, 250 years of slavery in the United States and America. The genocide of the Native Americans, denying women rights, even to this day, what's going on in the Supreme Court.
Wipe out your memory, and you wipe out your identity.
Nobody is trying to wipe out American history. We are trying to actually teach history, not propaganda. And also, yeah, he kind of does have a point about the, defining who you are based on your experiences. And if you keep doing experiences similar to that, then people will still look at you the same way. But if you change and improve yourself, then people will look at you differently. Some people will think of you as the same, like, oh, well, you're doing shit now, but you still did that bad thing one time. And some people still look at me that way as a person. But I know that's not who I am. That's who I used to be. And now I've changed, and I'm a lot better.
When you raise a generation of Americans to hold their country's past in contempt by exaggerating America's faults and ignoring its triumphs, then they will have no respect for American institutions or the beliefs on which the nation is based.
Please tell me the exaggeration of America's faults. What is exaggerated anyway? We're teaching that we literally abused, tortured, and killed black people and treated them like property. That's not exaggerated at all. It's not like we were just, oh yeah, Tyrone, go pick the cotton. No, we were fucking whipping them, and if they refused, they were either severely tortured or killed. And if they tried to escape, they met the same fate. That's not exaggerated at all.
It hasn't always been this way. Until the last few decades, liberals and conservatives alike shared a common understanding of America's origins, its history, and its mission of spreading liberty within America and around the world.
Where did America spread liberty to? Europe? Europe was already free. We just liberated it from Nazi Germany. And Germany. Where have we spread liberty to? The Middle East? We're butt-fucking the Middle East for their oil and lithium right now. We're butt-fucking Africa for their rare resources. That's not liberty. Are the countries that we've been to better off? Some of them. The ones that are better off are in Europe. The ones that are worse off, like in Africa and the Middle East, they fucking hate us because we're there.
They recognized America as the country of the Pilgrims in Jamestown, of the self-evident truths of the Declaration of Independence, of the individual rights won through revolution and secured in the U.S. Constitution. This was the country of the frontier spirit and of almost unlimited possibilities, the country that paid for the sin of slavery with the carnage of its Civil War, of economic dynamism and endless invention, of unparalleled individual opportunity, and the country that defeated fascism and communism in the 20th century.
Right. Those are America's triumphs. Good. Now are you going to talk about your faults and why we should teach them? Or are we going to ignore America's faults and keep our children blindly patriotic? Also, as if the Soviet Union had nothing to do with defeating Nazi Germany. I don't deny that the US had nothing to do with defeating Nazi Germany. Of course we did. We out-mass-produced the Axis powers. If it wasn't for us, the Soviet Union probably still could have won the war, but it would have taken a lot longer.
Previous generations took all this for granted and reveled in it. So what changed? Starting in the 1960s, a new so-called progressive narrative took hold that sought not to uplift, inspire, and unite, but to demean, degrade, and divide.
Yeah, progressives are trying to divide America. Not conservatives. Progressives are trying to say that racism and homophobia and sexism are bad, and that we should include women and minorities and gay people and trans people into things. You don't make sense. You are not making sense.
It sought to replace the pride of American achievement with shame.
I've already responded at this point. We're not trying to make our kids be ashamed of our country. We're trying to teach kids that it's bad to do what our country's done in the past. We're not trying to be like, America is a racist, homophobic country, and you should be ashamed for what you have done, even though you've done nothing wrong. That's not what we're doing. We're just saying, look, America has done some bad things in the past, and it's not your fault, and what you can do in order to prevent something like this from happening again is to acknowledge it, not ignore it. That is what's happening. That's what I was taught, and that's what literally everybody else is taught.
Ironically, this all happened while America was making extraordinary strides in civil rights, especially for minorities and women.
Yes, the Jews are trying to wipe out white people.
But anything less than perfection, which can never exist given that every society is composed of flawed human beings, is now considered a total failure. And victims of the past are elevated as an indictment of the present.
What the fuck?
Along the way, all the classic American touchstones have been undermined. According to the progressive narrative, Christopher Columbus discovered America only to despoil it.
No, Christopher Columbus didn't even know America existed. He didn't know it existed. But when he found out that it existed, he then went on a huge theft, murder, and genocide spree.
The founders wrote the Constitution only to codify their ownership of slaves.
No, who the fuck told you that?
The great captains of industry enriched themselves only by exploiting the poor.
That is true.
American traditions that were perfectly acceptable even a few years ago. Pledging allegiance to the flag, singing the national anthem, even saying Merry Christmas.
Oh my God. What the fuck are you talking about? It's still okay to do those things. Nobody... Oh my God. It's still okay to do those things if you want to, just some people don't. That's not trying to cancel America. Jesus Christ, you guys talk about the war on Christmas like it's fucking Iwo Jima.
Have been called into question, mocked, and sometimes banned.
Who has banned Christmas? Who has banned Christmas? It's still celebrated every year by a majority of this country.
The outcome of this new, nonviolent civil war between those who hold America and its history in contempt and those who, without denying its flaws, revere America.
Without denying its flaws, after saying all the stupid shit in the video so far,
will determine the future of the American experiment, the new history we will make. Is America a country that was built by slavery, or a country that overcame and abolished slavery at the cost of 600,000 lives? Is America a country of rampant discrimination, or an accepting people in active pursuit of a more perfect union?
Rampant discrimination. The left is discriminating compared to people like you who have been discriminating against people we've been fighting for rights for since slavery ended.
Is it a country of grinding exploitation or a land of limitless opportunity?
Both, I guess.
The time has come to choose. How will you remember America? I'm James Robbins, columnist for USA Today and author of Erasing America for Prager University.
Number 5.
Because this is America, Lois. Men have always run things, and there have never been any problems whatsoever.
Rape, murder, war. They all have one thing in common. Men.
Jesus Christ, that's a pretty broad statement. And who says women can't rape, murder, and war?
Aggression, violence, ambition unchecked by conscience, all the stuff of toxic masculinity, right? And the solution is obvious. Make men less toxic. Make men less masculine. Make men more like women.
No, you can be masculine without being toxic. And it's not like we're trying to make men like women. We're just trying to make men not do the bad things that men supposedly do.
But I'm here to tell you that that way of thinking is not only wrong, it's dangerous. Here's why.
No one is saying that's incorrect. Nobody's trying to make men like women. We're just trying to make men not do the rape.
When you try to make men more like women, you don't get less toxic masculinity. You get more.
Okay. I agree with that. You can't make men like women. But her definition of toxic masculinity is not being masculine.
Why? Because bad men don't become good when they stop being men. They become good when they stop being bad.
Whoa! Whoa! Wow, I did not know that. Wow. Oh my God, you are so smart. Big woman, big brain. Big man, big brain.
Aggression, violence, and unbridled ambition can't be eliminated from the male psyche. They can only be harnessed.
Wait, what?
And when they are harnessed, they are tools for good, not for harm.
Okay, she took a fucking huge leap. She was like, you can't take the negative aspects out of men by making them like women. And I agree with that. And then she said, the man part isn't what's wrong with them, it's the negative part. And I agree with that. And then she's like, you can't get rid of the negative parts because that's inherent to being a man. Like, what the fuck?
The same masculine traits that bring destruction also defeat tyranny. The traits that foster greed also build economies.
Women don't do this. Women don't defeat Nazis and have their own businesses. I don't...
The traits that drive men to take foolish risks also drive men to take heroic risks.
Yeah, but what if that guy fucking died? Then people would have been like, Jesus Christ, he was a fucking idiot. Why didn't he wait for the firefighters? That was only heroic because he made it out alive.
The answer to toxic masculinity isn't less masculinity. It's better masculinity.
And she took another back jump onto the right track this time. I think. I don't know. She looks like a fucking idiot. Look at this chick. Look at her. Look at her. Eva Braun Jr. right here.
And we know what that looks like. It's a young man opening the door for a girl on their first date.
Okay. Sure.
It's a father working long hours to provide for his family.
Women don't do this at all?
It's a soldier risking his life to defend his country.
Do women not do this at all? We decided women could be in the military like 50 years ago.
The growing problem in today's society isn't that men are too masculine. It's that they're not masculine enough.
Really? Good to know. What are some examples?
When men embrace their masculinity in a way that is healthy and productive, they are leaders, warriors, and heroes. When they deny their masculinity, they run away from responsibilities, leaving destruction and despair in their wake. The consequences can be seen everywhere. 1 in 4 fathers now lives apart from his children.
Of course they're shitting on the black family. Here's the thing. Black fathers, that 1 in 4 black fathers lives apart from his children, that applies to married men. That number applies to married men. So, because not as many black men are married compared to white men. So therefore, children don't have a dad. But that's not always the case. The average black family doesn't really tend to marry that much. And this is because you can get more welfare benefits that way.
And children who grow up without a dad are generally more depressed than their peers who have a mother and a father.
That's just not true. No. You just need 2 parents or more parents in the house to raise a kid. It's a lot more difficult to raise a child on your own compared to having 2 parents. It doesn't even matter if they have 2 moms, 2 dads, or a mom and a dad, or a grandma and a grandpa. You just need 2 guardians, 2 parents.
They are at far greater risk for incarceration, teen pregnancy, and poverty. 71% of high school dropouts are fatherless. Of all the rocks upon which we build our lives, family is the most important. And we are called to recognize and honor how critical every father is to that foundation.
The gender of parents has nothing to do with kids growing up to become doctors instead of prostitutes. Like, you just need two parents. Two parents can provide more resources and money and financial, standards to raise a child. Two, compared to one, because you're living off one income versus a combined income.
That was said by then Senator Barack Obama in 2008. If we are honest with ourselves, he went on, we'll admit that too many fathers are missing from too many lives and too many homes.
Says people like you who said that he was a socialist who wanted to take the guns away and, tax the rich, which is so bad. And now you want me to listen to him? Oh, Jesus Christ. Wonderful. Amazing.
As much as we try to deny the need for real masculine strength in society, there's no denying its necessity.
Women just can't lead. They just can't, according to this lady.
Healthy families and strong communities depend on the leadership and bravery of good men.
By family, of course, she means the nuclear family.
Yet, the current trend is to feminize young men in the hopes of achieving some utopian notion of equality and peace.
That is a very, very convincing graph.
And it starts at the earliest ages. In the school classroom, boys are invariably the problem. On the playground, aggressive games like dodgeball have long been banished.
Wow, I wonder why. Because so many people have fucking terrible memories of dodgeball. I was good at dodgeball because I was skinny and I could move, okay? But dodgeball was banned in my middle school because so many kids were getting hurt. Not because boys like to be aggressive.
We tell young men that their intrinsic desire to compete is wrong. Everybody gets a trophy. Don't run up the score.
Shut the fuck up about everybody gets a trophy. Please, tell me, what high school team gets a trophy if they lose? What middle school team? If my fucking football team or lacrosse team lost, we didn't get a trophy. You get a trophy if you fucking won. Nobody...
This anti-male tilt continues on through higher education and into the workplace. It has created millions of tentative men, unhappy women, and confused boys and girls.
That's a transphobic dog whistle.
Here's a secret that every woman knows. Women want real men.
What about lesbians?
Men they can count on and, yes, look up to.
What about lesbians?
No amount of feminist theory will change that.
Change what? That women should stay barefoot and pregnant? Feminists aren't saying that women shouldn't be in the house barefoot and pregnant. If they want to do that, that's totally fine. We won't stop them. But they don't want women only doing that if they don't want to.
I don't know any woman at any age who is attracted to a passive man who looks to her to be his provider, protector, and leader.
Very, very sexist. And what about lesbians?
Every woman I know wants a strong, responsible man. That's not a consequence of a social construct or cultural pressure. It's innate. The devaluation of masculinity won't end well because feminine, passive men don't stop evil. Passive men don't defend, protect, or provide. Passive men don't lead. Passive men don't do the things we have always needed men to do for society to thrive.
Conclusion. We don't want cool, chill guys running. We only need aggressive, toxically masculine men to do all the things in society and let women stay home and take care of the kids while her husband provides for the family. That's what I got out of that.
In his book, The Abolition of Man, English social philosopher C.S. Lewis writes about this problem. He describes the tension between cerebral man and visceral man. By his intellect, Lewis explains, man is mere spirit, and by his appetite, mere animal. We need both. Take away one, and you're left with a man who's either weak or wicked.
I guess that makes sense.
And in a world of wickedness, weak men are nothing more than enablers of wicked men.
Strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men.
Rape, murder, war. They all have two things in common. Bad men who do the raping, murdering, and warring, and weak men who won't stop them. We need good men who will. It's not masculinity that's toxic. It's the lack of it.
Or just the toxic parts about that masculinity.
I'm Allie Stuckey for Prager University.
Number 4.
Okay, but be careful. There's some snow monsters out there.
Oh, relax, hon. I'll be careful. Ah!
Cookie!
I own a small business with 7 employees. We make cookies, but not just any cookies. We make sugar-free cookies that diabetics can eat. Actually, they're so tasty, anyone can enjoy them.
Oh, shit. That actually sounds kind of nice.
That was the inspiration that motivated me to start this business. You see, I'm a diabetic myself. I have been one my whole life. If you think running a cookie company is fun and games, think again.
I would imagine it'd be somewhat difficult.
I work 100 hours a week, which isn't unusual for small business owners.
Jesus Christ. Damn, that's a lot of hours for a CEO of a factory. Yeah, Joseph Sempervivo is an American business executive who founded Joseph's Light Cookies, an international food product company. Sempervivo has appeared on Fox News and Fox Business to discuss tax policy. He is also a regular OP'd columnist, and his writings have appeared in the Wall Street Journal and Washington Examiner. On March 12, 2019, Sempervivo testified before Congress about Social Security. Oh, God. Oh, boy. Joseph's Light Cookies. Joseph's Light Cookies bakes more than 12 million sugar-free cookies a day. The company also produces sugar-free pancake syrup and other food products. The cookies became a regular scheduled item for QVC for 6 consecutive years. His first day on air, Sempervivo sold 3.6 million cookies. Yeah, small business. Small business. That's great.
I make a nice living, but I'm not in it for the money. I love what I do. I'd better. My margins are very tight, around 1%.
1%? So, wait. How are you surviving? There's no way your margins are 1%. Unless you're a very generous person, which I doubt since you're a fucking oligarch, but...
That means I have to sell $1 million worth of cookies to make $10,000. Every penny counts, literally. That's why I get so frustrated with government regulations.
Oh boy, he's going to talk about all the regulations that are oppressing his small business. A business that sells 12 million cookies a day, or bakes 12 million cookies a day. They probably sell roughly the same amount a day.
Now let me be clear. Some regulations are necessary, especially for obvious reasons in the food industry.
Right. Good.
But necessary and excessive are 2 entirely different things. Excessive, unnecessary regulations soak up valuable hours of my time and my money for no good purpose.
Well, then maybe you should do your fucking job right then.
That 100 hours I work per week, I estimate 36 of them are spent on compliance issues alone. This keeps me away from activities that would help me grow my business, like sales and product development. And that keeps me away from hiring more people. My employees are like family to me. It's that way with most small businesses.
Right. I'm sure you treat all of your Chinese factory workers like family.
But it's a struggle every single day. I could be more productive and feel a lot less anxiety if I didn't have to fight my own government. Or should I say governments, federal, state, and local.
Oh, the anxieties of being a president and CEO of a multi-food empire.
I get the roads and the bridges of the national defense, but I don't get why they have to be involved in every tiny aspect of my business, sometimes competing with each other as to who can make my life more difficult.
Making your life more difficult? Then do your fucking job right if the feds keep coming to your doorstep and are like, bruh, fix that thing, or give your workers more money for the labor that they do. So your life is so difficult. Oh my God. Yeah, take that fucking red velvet shirt and stick it up your ass.
For example, as a bakery, I'm under the jurisdiction of the Food and Drug Administration, FDA.
Yeah, to make sure you don't have sawdust and mouse guts in your batter.
The Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, to make sure that the ingredients that you use are compliant with federal government standards and that, you know, you're not making people sick.
And the Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
Yeah, to make sure that your workers aren't working 22-hour workdays and that the machines that they are using are safe to use. What is so bad about these?
I also have to deal with the State Health Agency. They all have different rules. If these rules contradict one another, it's not their problem, it's mine. A few years ago, the FDA inspector showed up for one of his random inspections. He noticed the door to the area in which we bake our cookies swung out as you walked in. He told me that was a code violation. The doors have to swing in. I had 30 days to fix it or I'd be fined thousands of dollars.
Yeah, this is his factory right here. This is supposedly his factory. Not an entrance, no. I don't know. I went online and I found Joseph's Light Cookies on a government website and this link took me here. So I'm going to safely assume that this is his factory. Yeah, his employee, man, look at his entire family, man. Yeah, this is his factory. And just so you know, just so you fucking know, that no kitchen in a factory, no room in a factory has regulations like a restaurant. Home-style cookies. Home-style cookies, motherfucker. Also, yeah, I know some things about FDA regulations and none of them have anything to do with door swinging. The FDA is in charge of making sure that your food is safe to eat. I would think OSHA would have the door regulation, but then again, the door, if supposedly you're telling the truth, the door would have to swing inward because a lot of people who work in restaurants know that the door to enter the kitchen always swings in. This is because if you're holding a bunch of shit, you know, you have to push the door open with your back. And a lot of customers don't know to avoid the door, and a lot of employees do.
I should note we have an air curtain between both rooms, so no food particles can get in or out of the baking area.
Is that even relevant to the fine that you have to... Everything people say in a PragerU video is just a fucking lie.
I pointed this out. The inspector was unmoved.
I wonder why. Maybe it's because you have to follow certain government regulations and safety procedures to make sure that your employees don't get hurt. But then again, the FDA isn't responsible for that, so I don't know what he's lying about. He's either lying about the FDA, or the door, or the air curtain. It's one of those three. He's confusing the fuck out of me. But let's hear what else he has to say.
A few months later, the inspector from the ag department shows up for one of his random inspections. He notices that the door swings in. Yes, I tell him, it does. It's an FDA regulation. No, he tells me, it has to swing out. Fix it within 30 days, he says, or you'll be fined.
This is just a lie. This is just not true. The Department of Agriculture is responsible for the ingredients you put in your food. No agriculture departments have anything, or regulations have anything to do with door swinging. I would think OSHA would do something like that, but I don't know. Thanks for lying to my face, Joseph Sempervivo. You've already lied literally the entire video. You said that you have a small business, but you have a factory in New Mexico that produces 12 million cookies a day. And you're lying about your doors. You fat fuck. What's next?
I started keeping 2 sets of doors, one that swings in for the FDA and one that swings out for the ag department.
Well, what else? That obviously is not true at all. But what else?
Here's another example. The FDA requires bakeries to send a sample of every product batch to a third-party lab for testing. We make 36 batches a day. That means we have to send 36 bags of cookies every day to that lab.
Right. As I said in the past, literally 20 minutes or whatever. Yeah. To make sure your cookies are safe to eat. Is there anything wrong with that?
This costs me tens of thousands of dollars every year. And remember, in order to make $10,000, I have to sell $1 million in cookies. We've never had a bad test. Hardly surprising, making cookies isn't that complex. The ingredients are well known and safe. I'm all for testing, but how about one bag out of every 10 batches? That alone might double my profit margin to 2%.
That is not possible. No way. So you're saying your factory... Hold on. Your factory produces 12 million cookies a day. 36 batches a day, huh? So what is that? 300,000 Hold on, math. Hold on. Math. 12 million divided by 36. Yeah, that's about 333,000 cookies per batch. Then yeah, I think sending 10 cookies to the FDA for each batch is pretty fucking reasonable. Second off, no fucking way it costs you that much money to send cookies to the FDA. No way. Maybe a little bit, but not $10,000, enough to make your profit margin up to 2%. That is a fucking lie.
One more example. The government demands that the type on my packaging be a certain size. Fine. I hired a company that does this sort of work to do the printing. The inspector gets out his magnifying glass and decides the font is off by 1/100th of an inch. All the packaging has to be trashed and a whole new set ordered.
Then hire a company that's better at printing, you idiot. Jesus Christ.
That cost me $15,000 or $1.5 million in cookies to make that money back. Another time, we didn't include the word coconut in the allergy section of the package. We didn't think it was necessary as these were coconut cookies.
I'm convinced this guy's just an idiot now. He's not even lying. He's just too stupid to figure out that the government wants to... This is why this video is so high. Because he's mad about basic government regulations. That's the only reason why it's that high. And he's being an idiot about it. Yeah, if you're going to make coconut cookies, then you have to say, warning, this contains coconut. Do not eat if you are allergic to coconuts. And whatever else ingredients are in your cookies. That's basic government regulation. I don't understand what's so hard to explain about that. Yeah, I hope you had to sell a fucking private jet so you could pay that fine. I hope your life is a fucking hell after that dumbass mistake.
All that packaging had to be redone too. That cost me $68,000.
Good. They should have fucking shut down your factory.
Or $6.8 million worth of cookies to make that money back. I could go on. So could anyone who owns a small business. But you get the idea.
Small business. Small business. Yeah, that has an annual revenue of $20 million a year. Yeah, that's a pretty small business.
Small businesses are responsible for 60 million jobs. We could be responsible for a lot more if the politicians who pass these laws and the bureaucrats who enforce them would back off.
As opposed to you, who probably is stealing a bunch of small businesses' jobs. Joseph, God doesn't look fondly upon you.
Common sense regulation? I'm all for it. Excessive, unnecessary, wasteful regulation? I need to get back to work. I'm Joseph Semprevivo, president of Joseph's Light Cookies for Prager University.
Yeah, go kill yourself, you fat pig. Number 3.
Or the N-word, even when used by one black student to another. If every high school principal gave the following speech, America would be a much better place. To the students and faculty of our high school, I am your new principal and honored to be so. There is no greater calling than to teach young people. I would like to apprise you of some important changes coming to our school. First, this school will no longer honor race or ethnicity. I could not care less if you are black, brown, red, yellow, or white. I could not care less if your origins are African, European, Latin American, or Asian, or if your ancestors arrived here on the Mayflower or on slave ships.
I thought all schools did that, but all right. Good start, Dennis. Good start.
The only identity this school will recognize is your individual identity, your character, your scholarship, your humanity.
Oh, great. We can express ourselves freely however we please. Dennis, I take this entire video back. You are doing so well in this video.
And the only national identity this school will recognize is American. This is an American public school, and American public schools were created to make better Americans.
Okay, that's cool. American public schools should be improved. Are you going to explain how to do that, Dennis?
If you wish to affirm here an ethnic or racial identity or a national identity other than American, you will have to attend another school.
What? Why? What if they're not American, Dennis? What if they weren't born here? What if they're a fucking German immigrant who's like staying with an American family for a year on like in a foreign exchange program? What if that German kid's like, oh yeah, I'm American now. Oh, das ist gut. Like, is that what you're trying to say? Because I'm pretty sure most people in the American public school system identify as American. But when I was in high school, not all, but most of them identified as American. Some of them were from other countries, like Africa, the Marshall Islands, Germany, and they identified that way. But no, according to this guy, all people who go to American public schools should call themselves American, even if they're here on foreign exchange or if they just immigrated here. They want to be American, but what Dennis is saying is that their culture should be erased entirely and they should adhere to American culture instead of being more diverse. That's what Dennis is saying here.
This includes after-school clubs. I will not authorize clubs that divide students based on identities such as race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or whatever else may become in vogue in our society. Those clubs cultivate narcissism, an unhealthy preoccupation with the self.
What if I want to join an LGBTQ plus rights club? I'm straight. Wouldn't that be the opposite of narcissism? Because most of the clubs at my school, at my high school, and in college are not based on race or gender at all. To an extent, maybe diversity club, but that's more reaching out to everybody, not like being black club, to which I'm pretty sure Dennis thinks that actually exists. The only clubs at my school, like art club and like the yearbook and the school newspaper and band and sculpting. Does he think like being black club exists and like sex club? I genuinely don't know. I don't know what he means. I don't know what the fuck he means.
While the purpose of education is to get you to think beyond yourself. The school's clubs will be based on interests and passions.
But what if I'm passionate about sociology or politics or diversity? What if I'm passionate about being black club?
Clubs that transport you to the wonders and glories of art, music, astronomy, languages you do not already speak, and more.
So, art club, music club, science club, and language club. That probably interests a lot of people. What's your point? I think it's good to have more clubs because some people might be interested in it and they might be passionate about it. They might be passionate about sex studies or whatever, or gender studies. There was Jesus and Donuts on Thursday mornings at my school. Apparently that was allowed, and that interested some people, mostly white men. There were other clubs like weightlifting and CrossFit, sports, etc. What is so bad about being... I'm not going to even bother with that.
If the only extracurricular activities you can imagine being interested in are those based on ethnicity, race, or sexual identity, that means that little outside of yourself really interests you.
So being passionate about the struggle of Black America as a white man is somehow narcissist. That's what added up in my head. Being a LGBTQ plus ally is also narcissistic somehow. wanting equal rights is somehow narcissistic. Coming from the guy who said that the slaves were better off coming here than staying in Africa.
Second, I do not care whether English is your native language. My only interest in terms of language is that you leave this school speaking and writing English as fluently as possible.
I do kind of agree with that. I think, if you want to come here, that you should learn English because we only speak English here. But he just doesn't want people hearing other languages. That's what Dennis is saying.
The English language has united America's citizens for over 200 years, and it will unite us at this school. Furthermore, I would be remiss in my duty to ensure that you will be prepared to successfully compete in the job market if you leave this school without excellent English language skills.
All right. Sounds pretty good to me, Dennis. I don't think that's what public school education should be for, to prepare you for jobs. I think public school education should be there to, teach you about certain things, not make you a worker. I'm pretty sure public school teaches you to think, not work.
We will learn other languages here. It's deplorable that most Americans only speak English.
That is true. I think that we should teach foreign languages early on in our education, since that's when our brains are still developing, not in high school. This is because, learning a second language can be beneficial for your brain. And oftentimes, when you travel somewhere, you won't have any struggles or have to use Google Translate. So yes, Dennis, thank you for actually saying something that I will fully 100% agree with.
But if you want classes taught in your native language rather than in English, this is not the right school for you.
Literally, nobody in my time at my 4-year public high school has anyone asked if they could teach the class in Russian or whatever.
Third, because I regard learning as a sacred endeavor, everything in this school will reflect learning's elevated status. This means, among other things, that you and your teachers will dress accordingly. There will be a dress code at this school.
There are dress codes at all public schools. I think some of the dress codes are fucking ridiculous. But, good job, Dennis. Good job for saying shit that already happens in schools.
And you will address all teachers by their title, not by their first name. They are your teachers, not your pals.
I have never done that in my entire life. Now, I've called some of my teachers by their last name, by just their last name. I just say, yo, Anderson, or something like that. But I would never call them by their first name. That's disrespectful. And I had one teacher who wanted us to refer to her by a nickname. I won't say her name, but it was like the first vowel of her name. And she liked it, so.
Fourth, no obscene language will be tolerated anywhere on this school's property. By obscene language, I mean the words banned on radio and television, plus epithets such as the B word, even when addressed by one girl to another, or the N word, even when used by one black student to another.
Yeah, good luck trying to regulate all of that when students literally cursed all the time when I was in school, and you weren't allowed to say fucking shit in the classrooms or in hallways, but people still did it, and the teachers didn't really care, so good luck regulating that.
It is my intent that by the time you leave this school, you will be among the few your age to distinguish between the elevated and the degraded, the holy and the obscene.
That's a dog whistle for we are going to have the Bible class.
Fifth, we will end all self-esteem programs. In this school, self-esteem will be attained in only one way, the only way self-esteem can be attained, by earning it.
But what if somebody has a low self-esteem when they reach high school? Shouldn't they get help from student counselors so that they can boost it? Because it's kind of hard to boost your self-esteem on your own. Yeah, you can try. I did. But it took help from counseling, from the backing of my family, and from some friends. So, why?
One immediate consequence is that graduating classes will have one valedictorian, not 8.
I do actually agree with that. I think it is kind of pathetic that my high school class had 9 valedictorians, not 1, when not all of them deserved it. If I can remember correctly, I think only 3 of them actually would deserve it, so.
6th and last, I am reorienting the school toward academics and away from politics and propaganda.
How ironic. How ironic.
No more time will be devoted to racism, sexism, Islamophobia, homophobia.
So, there goes history class.
Global warming.
There goes science class. Dennis probably doesn't want them learning about science, by the way.
Tobacco or gender identity.
And there goes health and fitness. So 3 classes that students are required to graduate are just gone. We're only going to be teaching math, language arts, and music, or whatever. Jesus Christ, Dennis. Do you just not want them to learn about history?
No more classes will be devoted to condom wearing.
Where did that even come from? My teacher didn't ask me to whip my dick out and show me how to put a condom on. I figured it out myself. Where the fuck did that come from? And yeah, it's called sex education, you dipshit.
And teaching you to regard sexual relations as no more than a health issue.
It is a health issue. It is. You have to be like under certain circumstances to have sex. Like men can't have erectile dysfunction. That's a health issue. And periods. That's a health issue. Reproductive health.
And there will be no more attempts to convince you that you are a victim because you are not white or male or heterosexual or Christian.
I never, in my 4 years of high school, did I hear any of my teachers say that if they weren't a straight, white, heterosexual, Christian, cis male, that they were a victim. I never once heard that in my life.
This school will have failed if any of you graduate without considering him or herself inordinately lucky. Lucky to be alive and lucky to be an American.
I am not lucky to be an American. While making this video, Roe v. Wade was overturned. And some justices on the Supreme Court want to relook at same-sex marriage, same-sex relationships, and contraceptives. I'm not lucky to be an American. We just took a giant step backward in civil rights. And I think gay marriage is going to be next. So no, I'm not lucky to be an American. I hate this country, but I was never taught to hate it. I figured that out on my own when I realized that public school education was just indoctrination and propaganda, not education. And then when I got to college and I started realizing a bunch of shit, then I realized I was actually getting educated. Don't know what else to say, Dennis. You get down on your knees and just start sucking Uncle Sam like every day during some of your PragerU videos, so I don't know what the fuck to say.
Now please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. As many of you do not know the words, your teachers will hand them out to you.
You have got to be fucking kidding me. That line right there is the reason why this video is so high. It's not that they don't know the words, it's that they don't want to say them and you can't force them to. They don't want to blindly salute the flag every day before school. I realized how stupid and fascist that was in high school, and I stopped doing it. And you can't make them do it.
I'm Dennis Prager.
Yeah, go fucking hang yourself from the American flagpole that you have in your house. Number 2.
Have you ever pushed a beach ball underwater? What happens? It pops right back up. Because of its nature, a beach ball will not stay submerged. The same is true for men and women. Each has a distinct nature that will always rise to the surface.
Wow, really? Oh my God, I had no idea that men and women are totally different. Wow, I thank you for telling me, PragerU.
Simply put, men and women are different. They look different. They have different body parts, different biology, different hormones. They express emotions differently. They have different needs and desires.
Wow, I didn't know men had dick and balls and women had vaginas. Holy shit. Wow. My God, this is mind-blowing.
Now, if you told that to your great-grandmother who never went to college, never used an iPhone, never used social media, she would have asked, "Why are you telling me something so obvious?" But if you said the same thing to a graduate student in sociology or anthropology, let alone gender studies, they'd say you were wrong.
That just proves to me that PragerU has no idea what gender studies or sociology even is. According to Wikipedia, gender studies is an interdisciplinary academic field devoted to analyzing gender identity and gender representation. Like queer studies and men's studies, it originated in interdisciplinary program Women's Studies concerning women, feminism, gender, and politics. Its rise to prominence, especially in Western universities after 1990, coincided with the rise of deconstructionism. Disciplines that frequently contribute to gender studies include the fields of literature, linguistics, human geography, history, political science, archaeology, economics, sociology, psychology, anthropology, cinema, musicology, media studies, human development, law, public health, and medicine. It also analyzes how race, ethnicity, location, social class, nationality, and disability intersect with the categories of gender and sexuality. Not that men and women are different. I've taken 2 sociology classes so far in my college career, and never have either of my professors told me once that men and women are the same. And they're crazy leftists. So, congrats for strawmanning. I'm sure some people believe that, but a majority of people, even some people who teach this kind of stuff in universities, don't think that men and women are the same.
Men and women are basically the same, the grad student would say. Sexuality exists on a spectrum. It's determined by people's internal feelings.
Part of that is true.
Between Great Granny and the Gender Studies PhD, I'm going with Granny and her common sense. To believe that men and women are basically the same is to believe a delusion. A delusion is a belief that contradicts reality. You can say you're Napoleon, but that doesn't make you Napoleon.
Right, and I could say I'm Axl Rose, even though he deserves to burn in hell. What's your point?
You can try to socialize girls into behaving like boys, or boys into behaving like girls, but it won't work. You can push the beach ball underwater, but not for long.
Right. Some boys tend to be more feminine, like me. I was a bit more of a feminine boy. And some girls can be a bit more masculine, like tomboys, like my sister was. But when we're talking about trans people, that's a totally different subject.
New York pediatrician George Lazarus tells the story of a couple who didn't want their young daughter to conform to the usual pink and blue stereotype. So they bought her a set of toy trucks. The father went to her room to check on her, and she told him to be quiet. The trucks were sleeping. A similar story about his twin daughters pretending their daddy truck was carrying the baby truck was told by the former president of Harvard University, Lawrence Summers.
What does this have to do with arguing against the existence of trans people?
Give a little boy a truck, or just about any other object, and sooner or later, he will turn it into a weapon. That's reality.
Maybe. I don't know. When I was a kid, I played with Spider-Man dolls and Legos, but I never used them as a weapon. I had Spider-Man save fucking Mary Jane and shit and fight the Green Goblin. I had Batman and Joker dolls too, and I played with those. I had them fight each other. I didn't use them as a weapon.
Believing delusions makes people say and do foolish, self-destructive things.
What's delusional about someone choosing what they want to do with their life? I'm so confused. You can literally just shoot down all the transphobic arguments by just saying, why do you care? And then conservatives just have nothing to say after that. Why does it matter that if a guy wants to be a girl, he can turn into a girl? I'm so confused. Why do you care? Does it affect your life in any way? No. Just like how you choose your freedom of religion, it doesn't affect me in any way, so I don't care. So why do you have to control everything? When leftists and liberals want people to live freely, you want to control everything. Why? Just why? Will you please tell us in this video?
Here's an example. If men and women are basically the same, they want the same things from sex, right? But this isn't true. Women tend to be far more selective about partners with whom they choose to be intimate. That's female nature.
Tell that to some of the women on my college campus who just want to fuck. Men also do this too, by the way. Men don't go around fucking whoever they want. A lot of them have standards, just like how a lot of women have standards. What is your point?
Men tend to be, shall we say, far less discerning. That's male nature.
Again, maybe some men do that, but most of them don't. All of my friends and guys who I've met and talked with have standards, bud. Just like me, I also have standards.
Once, this was considered common sense.
Dude, it still is. What the fuck are you talking about? As people get older, yeah, they tend to get less sexually active because they meet, the one, or they settle down and not fuck around all the time. That's also common sense, but you're not okay with that. You just want people to get married and fuck once in their lifetime to procreate.
Nobody had to go to graduate school or do an academic study to figure it out. But now everything is upside down. We're trying to push the beach ball underwater. Today, male and female college students who, 50 years ago, lived in separate buildings and had supervised curfews now share the same dorm rooms and even the same bathrooms. And sex, well, it's just another form of college entertainment.
Yeah. And guys and girls' dorms, separated from each other, still exist. I'm sure some of the more liberal universities like mine have co-ed dorms where girls and guys share rooms on the same floor, but there aren't guy and girl roommates. I don't think that's a thing, at least not according to my knowledge. And, well, yeah, I'll give you this one. Sex is kind of a form of college entertainment. That is just natural. That'll happen. People will want to fuck. Are you offended by that?
It means nothing and has no consequences, emotionally, psychologically, or physically. But certainly, as far as most women are concerned, this just isn't true.
Try telling that to the 4 girls who I hooked up with during my freshman year of college. They don't talk to me anymore.
If sex doesn't mean anything, why would any woman feel violated by an uninvited touch?
Wait, what?
If sex doesn't mean anything, why would any woman feel violated by an uninvited touch? Do you think a man whose leg is touched by a woman he doesn't know feels as violated as a woman does when her leg is touched by a man she doesn't know?
Answer me, how do you explain that all of this stuff? How many women are saying to men who work for them, if you don't sleep with me, you don't get advanced at work?
Oh God!
There's just the sexual natures are so different that it is probably the hardest thing that I know of among humans is for women to understand male sexual nature. Some do. Alison Armstrong, for example, does. She has a tremendous presence on the internet, and I have her on my male-female hour 4 times a year, and I have for about 10 years.
Wow.
She's gifted because she and I asked her often, why do you understand men so well? She said, because I wanted to. That's all it takes. It takes a woman to have the desire to understand men, but most women don't want to in this realm, not because they're bad or anything else, but because it's too frightening. And totally understandably, male sexual nature is frightening to women, and I get it. And by the way, when uncontrolled, male sexual nature is frightening. But most men, at least in our society, thank God, do control themselves. But uncontrolled male sexual nature is truly a frightening thing to women. That if there were no moral rules and no police, men would grab women and do what they wanted as a rule. That is the way men are made. The fact that your man doesn't act that way is because he has been given a set of rules and because he knows that he will be punished.
No?
Or just enough that he has these set of rules and the fear of punishment is not even necessary. But rules, men know this, and we males, I am one of them, I am male.
You sure about that?
We know this from a very early age. We can't act out our sexual nature. It's made clear to boys in the vast majority of instances at a very early age, and it is a good thing that it is done. But the reason a woman will not want to know is because she wants to believe the feminist lie, the left-wing lie. And I hate using such strong language because the word lie, to me, you have to reserve it for really, really severe moments. But this is severe. That men and women are basically the same is a spectacular lie.
What?
And so what happened, by the way, I have lived long enough to see the results. So all these young women go to college, they learn this lie. Oh, you have the same sexual nature as a man. So they act out on it. You're as happy with non-committed, non-emotional sex as males are. So a lot of girls say, oh, yes, I'm just like a guy. I could sleep around just as much as guys want to sleep around. And this is not true for every female. Clearly, I recognize that. But for most, that is not a road to happiness.
Oh.
Whereas for men, it may not be a road for happiness, but it certainly isn't a road to unhappiness. Men are very happy to have women say, oh, I'm just like you. Let's sleep together. Men are very happy to meet such a woman who has that attitude. But one of the reasons that there is this lie, another lie, that the colleges are a rape culture, I mean, I could prove to you it's a lie.
No,
because
that is
parents
not true
would never
at all.
send their daughters to a rape culture.
That is a lie. Rape culture does exist on college campuses. It does. It's been literally proven. 1 in 5 women are sexually assaulted during their time at a university. This is only anecdotal evidence, but I could count many occasions on my campus that at least a couple of girls were, at the very least, drugged to the point where they were unconscious at some of the more sketchy fraternities and at parties. It's bad. Frat boys are literally given like a 4-hour quarterly seminar. Quarterly, so like at the start of every quarter. So at the beginning of the semester, halfway through the semester, beginning of the next semester, so on. They're literally given a quarterly 4-hour seminar on not to rape girls. Dennis. And what's wrong with a girl choosing what she wants to do with her body? If she wants to fuck, why do you care? I mean, maybe her parents would be a little concerned about it, but then again, that's her choice, not her parents. She's old enough to make her own decision that way. And I love, what I got out of that from what you said is that you would be raping people if it wasn't for the Bible and the police. Your entire moral compass is based off the Old Testament. By the way, that whole 4-minute segment of the video is proof that Dennis Prager wrote the script to this video.
If sex doesn't mean anything, why did Jennifer Lawrence say to The Hollywood Reporter after filming an intimate scene with her co-star Chris Pratt in the movie Passengers, "I knew it was my job, but I couldn't tell my stomach that. That was the most vulnerable I've ever been."
Okay, an actress filming a scene with a homophobic co-star that she didn't really feel comfortable doing. That's one example. What about the tens, hundreds of thousands, millions of women out there who want to do what they want with their bodies? Again, yeah, I heard about that. Jennifer Lawrence did feel uncomfortable with Chris Pratt, but that's one example. I'm sure there are more, but there are also other examples where the opposite is true, where the woman didn't feel vulnerable from casual sex.
She felt vulnerable in that scene, but not in others, because she knows even acting out in a movie scene, sex is a big deal.
I don't think they were actually having sex, though.
That's one of the many reasons it has traditionally been confined to marriage, and why experience and research shows that sex within marriage is more satisfying emotionally, psychologically, and physically, not to mention spiritually, than sex outside of marriage.
Wow, somebody who they love, the sex they have with is more intense emotionally, physically? Wow. Wow, that is shocking. I had no idea. Thank you for telling me, PragerU.
Anyone who tells you that men and women are basically the same, and that sex means as little to women as it can to many men, is not telling you the truth. They're making stuff up. They're pushing an agenda. Theirs, not yours. So, trust Granny, trust common sense, and remember the beach ball. I'm Sean McDowell, Associate Professor of Theology and Philosophy at Biola University for Prager University.
I don't really know what to say about that video. I'll be totally honest, I don't know. But what I do know is that PragerU hates men more than women. Some men are toxic and, commit sexual violence. But do they think that all men have the most little self-control as humanly possible, that we're just gonna rape anybody? And they think that women doing what they want is bad. They aren't... I can't fucking do this, man. And before we get to number one, here are some dishonorable mentions. Bruh. Dennis Prager gets down on his knees and starts blowing Uncle Sam until he feels his freedom all over his face.
Bruh. Adolf Hitler was no nationalist. He was an imperialist. If his ambitions had been limited to ruling Germans, it would have been terrible for Germany. But the French, the British, the Russians, and everyone else would have been spared a world war.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
Bruh.
Candace Owens tries to tell us that white people didn't invent slavery, even though nobody fucking believes that.
Bruh.
Some dude I've never heard of talks about how the British were actually the best people in the world who gave freedom to everybody, even India.
Bruh.
Dennis Prager says that people are unhappy because they're not conservative and Christian enough. Number one.
Of course it's a war on Christmas. Change from wishing fellow Americans Merry Christmas to wishing them Happy Holidays is a very significant development.
Oh, fuck. Shit's about to get real. I'll be back. For good measure.
Proponents of Happy Holidays argue it's no big deal. Proponents of Merry Christmas are making a mountain out of a molehill. But the Happy Holidays advocates want it both ways. They dismiss opponents as hysterical, but at the same time, in addition to replacing Merry Christmas with Happy Holidays, they have relentlessly pushed to replace Christmas vacation with winter vacation and Christmas party with holiday party.
Source, please. Also, though I do have some people who say Christmas vacation and, Christmas party and stuff, and some people don't say that, what is the big deal? Are you that mad that someone isn't using Christmas for literally everything? H-Bomber Guy already did an incredible video on this, by the way, but I just don't understand. What is the big deal? Isn't it good to have inclusion instead of forcing people to celebrate a holiday that they don't celebrate?
So then, which is it? Is all this elimination of the word Christmas important or not?
But where is the elimination? Nobody is forcing you to not say Merry Christmas. Nobody is pointing a gun to your head and being like, yo, Dennis, stop saying Merry Christmas. Be nice to Jewish people or whatever. And then nobody's doing that. You can still say Merry Christmas if you don't want to. It's just some people don't want to say it, and you can't force them to. This is just like with the Pledge of Allegiance and your fucking why every American student should hear this or whatever.
The answer is obvious. It's very important. That's why so much effort is devoted to substituting other words for Christmas.
Sorry, I got hot. Okay, like what?
And these efforts have been extraordinarily successful. In place of the universal Merry Christmas of my youth, in recent decades I have been wished Happy Holidays by every waiter and waitress in every restaurant I have dined, by everyone who welcomes me at any business, by my flight attendants and pilots, and by just about everyone else. When I respond, "Thank you, Merry Christmas," I often sense that I've actually created some tension.
I often sense that you're full of shit, Dennis. This is just anecdotal evidence. Yeah, some people have wished you happy holidays, but literally everyone in my social circle has said to me, "Merry Christmas. I hope you have a great Christmas. Oh, here's your Christmas present." Not, "Oh, happy holidays. Here's your winter-themed gift," or whatever. What else do you have for us, Dennis?
Many of those I wish Merry Christmas are probably relieved to hear someone who feels free to utter the C word.
Cunt? Is it cunt?
But all the sensitivity training they've had to undergo creates cognitive dissonance.
Oh, God.
The opponents of Merry Christmas and other uses of the word Christmas know exactly what they're doing. They're disingenuous when they dismiss defenders of Merry Christmas as fabricating some, quote, war on Christmas. Of course it's a war on Christmas. Or more precisely, a war on the religious nature of America.
People are anti-Christianity because they're saying happy holidays. But people, I don't, literally, in literally every PragerU video that Dennis does, he says two things. One, that communism killed over 100 million people in the 20th century. And two, that the left is trying to literally obliterate the religious nature of America. And he calls them anti-American for it. That's it.
The left in America, like the left in Europe, wants to create a thoroughly secular society.
So let's see, secular, oh fuck. Secular definition. Denoting attitudes, activities, or others, things that have no religious or spiritual basis. I don't know what denoting means. Be a sign of or indicate activities or other things that have no religious... Okay, so they're just trying to... Oh my God, Dennis. They're just trying to... What... What Christmas is about is celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ. I think everybody knows that. But Dennis is trying to say that, like, the left is completely eroding the definition of Christmas, when that's not happening. Because many other religious holidays happen in the winter time, including Hanukkah. And you would know that, Dennis, because you're Jewish.
Not a secular government, which is a desirable goal and which in any event has always been the case in America, but a secular society.
You don't want the church and state separated. Also, a secular society, meaning that no religious basis happens.
Most people do not realize that the left believes in secularism as fervently as religious Jews and Christians believe in the Bible.
What about Muslims?
That's why Merry Christmas bothers secular activists. It's a blatant reminder of just how religious America is and always has been.
Nobody is saying that you can't say Merry Christmas anymore. Dennis Prager talks about the war on Christmas like it's fucking Normandy or whatever.
So here's a prediction. Activists on the left will eventually seek to remove Christmas as a national holiday.
You sure about that? I'm a pretty active leftist in my university, and I love having a day off. I love having Christmas break. It's amazing.
Now, the left doesn't announce that its agenda is to thoroughly secularize American and European societies. Instead, they offer the inclusiveness argument that Merry Christmas or Christmas party or Christmas vacation is not inclusive.
Wow, Dennis, you actually got something factually correct. That's a very rare PragerU dub, honestly.
This inclusive argument plays on Americans' highly developed sense of decency, but the argument is preposterous. Who exactly is being excluded when one wishes someone Merry Christmas?
Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists, any other major religion in the world that you can think of, atheists, or people who don't celebrate holidays. I forgot what those people are called. Yeah, there's a lot of people being excluded because they celebrate different things.
Non-Christians? I'm a non-Christian. I'm a Jew. Christmas is not a religious holy day for me, but I'm an American, and Christmas is a national holiday in my country. It is therefore my holiday, though not my holy day.
Yeah, and other people who aren't Christian get that holiday too. What the fuck are you even talking about?
As much as it is for my fellow Americans who are Christian.
Yeah, the same Christians who want women to be more regulated than guns and no environmental protection at all. In the country that is supposed to be the leader of the free world, we really aren't that free. And who is to blame? I'll let you do the math, Dennis.
That's why it's not surprising that it was an American Jew, Irving Berlin, who wrote White Christmas, one of America's most popular Christmas songs. In fact, according to a Jewish musician writing in the New York Times, almost all the most popular Christmas songs were written by Jews.
Yeah, and white people have written songs about the struggle of Black America. What's your point?
Apparently, all these American Jews felt quite included by Christmas.
All I want for Christmas is you.
By not wishing me a Merry Christmas, you are not being inclusive. You are excluding me from one of my nation's national holidays.
Wow, Dennis, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was hurting your feelings.
But even if Christmas were not a national holiday, I would want pilots to wish their passengers Merry Christmas, companies to have Christmas parties, and schools to continue to have Christmas vacations.
You can say Christmas if you really want to. Nobody is stopping you. And that's happening nowhere. What the fuck are you talking about? If Christmas wasn't a national holiday, I'm sure some people would still be celebrating Christmas. Yeah, but because Christmas is a national holiday, it has incorporated cultural Christianity, meaning that a lot more people besides Christians celebrate Christianity. Hanukkah isn't a national holiday, but some people still celebrate it, but most people do not. But if it was instead of Christmas, I think a lot of people would celebrate Hanukkah instead of Christmas. And that includes atheists and people who aren't religious.
Just because I don't personally celebrate Christmas, why would I want to drop the word Christmas when the holiday is celebrated by 90% of my fellow Americans? It borders on the misanthropic, not to mention the mean-spirited, to want to deny nearly all of your fellow citizens the joy of having Christmas parties or being wished a Merry Christmas.
That was the greatest cartoon I've ever seen in my life. Great job. Great job. Fabulous job, Dennis. I love you so much.
The vast majority of Americans who celebrate Christmas and who treat non-Christians so well deserve better. So please say Merry Christmas and Christmas party and Christmas vacation. If you don't, you're not inclusive. You're hurtful. I'm Dennis Prager.
Private military contractors, on the other hand, are fine! What the fuck? Ah, what a delightfully unbiased video. No political agenda here.
I will continue to be hurtful. Your videos are so boring, Dennis. Nobody likes you. You can shove them all up your ass. Goodbye. But in all seriousness, though, Prager University is just another right-wing propaganda extremist YouTube channel. A lot of people have made very good response videos on this, and I don't really expect this video to get a lot of popularity or attention, but I wanted to make this just to display my own opinion on these videos. My arguments might not be full of facts, but I just like to make fun of them. Anyways, Dennis, if you're watching this right now, I hope you know that no one likes you, and I know that you know that because you get so much criticism from literally people who you love and support. But what can I say? I'm just a dumb lefty. I like Crimson for Prager University.